Hello, welcome. My name is Andy. I'm a philosophy lecturer, and here we are doing data analysis for the humanities. I was a programmer before. I have taught Python previously, and you will find my Python course around here somewhere on YouTube. It is all available, and you can watch this before this here. There's also the previous session just before this was the revision of the Python content. So make sure you watch this because you need to know some Python in order to be able to follow this here. This is data analysis. We're using Python. We're using Colab. You need to have a Colab account, which is essentially a Gmail account, and then you can use this to do the exercises in Google Colab, which is what we will be doing here. So last time we reviewed Python, so hopefully you have done this. Now you know what you need to know about Python. It's not much, but you need to know how to interact with it. And today we start with the actual data analysis part, which is where we talk about functions and how functions behave and what language we use towards functions. And we start by asking ourselves, what is a model? When we talk about modeling something, what even is a model? And we have all these examples of models. We talk of model airplanes, for example, or you can talk about a model of an ecosystem, even a fashion model or a role model, a model student or a model scientist, or perhaps you always wanted to be like somebody else who is your role model. So what is, when we talk about modeling and about these kinds of models, what is the specific thing about them? In what sense is a model a model? What makes it a model? Think about it for a second. Perhaps if you have these questions and you want to think about them, feel free to stop the video for a moment. Think about it then. Come back. Okay, so a model is a simplified representation of reality. When you have a model airplane, this is an airplane in some sense. In some of its properties are the same as an airplane. For example, perhaps it can fly, right? Model airplanes typically do fly. They are remote controlled, they can fly, but it cannot transport passengers, and it doesn't need a huge airport in order to start, and you don't have to pay millions to buy it. So it is a much cheaper, more available, easier to handle simplification of the original thing, which is the real airplane. But it is not totally unrelated to it. If it couldn't fly and if it even didn't look like an airplane at all, let's say, this bottle here, this is not a good model airplane because it doesn't have anything common with an airplane except perhaps it's made of plastic. But this would not be a good model. So your model has to have some relevant similarities with the thing that you want to model, and it can diverge in other ways, especially the ways that you are not interested in, can be simplified, but in such a way that it does not influence the parameters that you want to study. So if you want to learn flying by flying a model airplane, it's not important that inside are sitting humans or inside is just some kind of dead weight. This doesn't make a difference. But what would make a difference is if this model airplane did not have the correct surfaces, the correct control surfaces. You could not use your flying controls in order to control it. Then you would not learn flying with this model airplane. So in the respects that you are interested in, it needs to be similar to the real thing. And the same is true of, role models. Let's say I want to be like Albert Einstein because I admire him. He's my role model as a scientist. This does not mean that I have to grow the same hair or that I have to behave in exactly the same way or that I even need to be genetically somehow identical to Albert Einstein. These things don't matter because he is my role model in a particular respect. He's my role model in the way I relate to science, or in the way I study science, or in the way I think of myself as a scientist. And as long as I model myself after him in these respects that are interesting to me, He is a good model for me. I treat my model version of Einstein as a simplification of the real person, right? It's a simplification. My model Einstein is somebody, it doesn't matter actually who he is, who behaves in the way that Einstein behaved in respect to science. I'm not even copying all his behavior. For example, he is reported to have had a very bad behavior towards women and his girlfriends and his wife and so on. So I don't need to model that, right? I can have a good relationship with my wife and still have Einstein as a role model in terms of behavior towards science in the realm of science. Okay, so models are defined as representing something but with simplification by omitting details that are not relevant to what I want to model. And this can be very different. If I want to model how old people walk and I take Einstein as a model of old people and how they walk, when perhaps their joints are not working very well anymore and they have osteoarthritis or something, then it would be important to model his walk and his legs in that particular way and how they are influenced by some disease of old age. While if I'm interested in him as a scientist, these things are not important. So depending on what you want to model, you will have different models and you will omit different things and include different things in your model. Now, there is a very famous Polish-American philosopher called Alfred Korzybski. He said something very important and very interesting. He said the map is not the territory. And we don't need to deal with what he exactly meant at this point. The important thing is to realize that for us, in terms of modeling, this is also an important statement. The map is not the territory means there is a significant and important difference between a map and between the place that I am mapping. Now, imagine you are at a university, right, like I am just now, and there is a campus map, and you look at this campus map, and this campus map maps the campus in which you are standing. Now, if this campus map was as detailed as the campus itself, first it would have to be the size of the whole campus, and then they would have to have every detail of the campus on the map, all the little stones and perhaps even the animals, the ants at a particular point in time would be there on the map. And all the buildings would be there on the map with their doors open or their windows open or closed as they are at a particular moment. And the sunlight would fall there. The leaves that fall from the trees would be lying there, also mapped in my map. And so I would have a map that when I want to fully unroll it, I have to have the size of a free campus so that I can unroll my map. And then if I want to see how big the distance is between the buildings, I would have to walk on my map all this real distance in order to see how big it is. It's easy to see that such a map would not be useful, right? Such a map is useless because now the map is essentially the territory. And then why do I even need a map? If I had a map like this, it would be easier to just throw it away and use the campus directly, which is the same as using a map that's a one-to-one representation of the campus with all the detail. There's no advantage anymore of using the map. This little thought experiment shows us that a map is only useful, it gets its usefulness, it develops its usefulness from the fact that it is not the territory. It's not even very similar to the territory. It's very different. An extreme example of this are subway maps all around the world. They are typically made in a way that the location of the stations on the map roughly represents the relationships these stations have in reality on the map, but the correspondence is very loose, actually. Often, if you look at your own, if you live in a big city, you look at your own subway map, often you would see stations 1, 2, 3, one beside the other on the map. In reality, they are many kilometers apart. On the other hand, you can see stations very far apart that in reality are very close. So the way they are represented on the subway map is not supposed to mirror their geographical relationships exactly. It's supposed to make the map easy to navigate when you are in the train or when you are, choosing a train inside the station. So you want a representation that clearly shows you where the train is going to go, and if the train goes to 3 stations that in reality are arranged in some kind of strange pattern in the landscape, but there is nothing else between them, then the subway map will probably put them in one line, 1, 2, 3, right? Why would it go up and down if the up and down is not relevant, right? And so this is the simplification to the relevant features, right? You simplify the reality of these different stations and the geography to just what's important for navigating your trains. Which line connects to which station, and how do I change from one line to the other to reach a particular point on this map. And when I'm finished, when I arrived at my station, I leave the map behind. I don't look at the subway map anymore. I go out to the street, and then I'm back in my reality. And these two things work together because they have this point at which they connect, the exit of the station. So a model is a simplified, relevantly simplified version of reality, and the simplification is the essential part of its functionality. You cannot make a model that is reality itself. It would be useless. The point is we have to simplify it. In this sense, every model is in error. No model depicts correctly the reality, because then it would be a reality. And there's this saying, all models are wrong, but some are useful. So yeah, this is a saying that shows you this idea that all models are wrong means they diverge from reality. They are not the same. They don't depict reality correctly, but they're still useful because they are not reality. So that's all about what a model is. And in the next video, we will talk about functions. So make sure to come back for that. See you there.